Patch 13.14 has completely changed the meta once again. Fast 7 and 8 AD comps have taken over, and the king of last patch, Zed, was completely gutted. In this video, I'm going to show you my tier list for the current meta, then take a look into each of these comps mentioned, and explain the best strategies to climb on this patch. Starting off with S tier in the tier list, Freljord Aphelios once again dominates the meta. This comp is very flexible and consistent, as you can pivot into it from anything as long as you have the proper items. This comp really shines with good combat augments and a 3-item ergot, so make sure to prioritize those if possible. Gunner Zeri is finally back and lands in S tier. This is the best comp in the game with Piltover, as you often just win out if you manage to cash out your T-Hex with enough stacks. Even without Piltover though, this is still a great AD option, and an alternative to Aphelios when rolling down at level 7 or 8. Freljord Akshan is the third overtuned AD option in the meta. This comp caps out incredibly high once you hit Akshan 3-star, and it's very stable with just Akshan 2-star in the mid game. This is a reroll comp, so you should only play this if you have a lot of Akshans on your roll down, or you have specific items like Deathblade, Runedance, and IE. Moving on to A tier, Sorcerer Lux is back on the menu after 6 out of the 7 Sorcerer received buffs in the last patch. This comp struggles playing from behind though, as you really can't fit the board at level 7 properly without +1 Sorcerers. If you have a strong AP opener that lets you reach level 8, you should be looking to play this comp. Noxus Reroll is a great 3-cost reroll comp to play from ahead. This comp snowballs really hard if you manage to create an early win streak, but you can only play this when you get a very specific opener. Also, if you can't manage to hit Darius 3-star, you're almost guaranteed to bot 4. Invoker Karma is finally playable after being underpowered for the first few patches of the set. This comp received multiple buffs and appreciates the slower tempo of the meta. The comp is really augment dependent, so you can only play this if you have good ones or if you have a great opener. Multicaster Taliyah is a comp that is only playable if you have Double Trouble, 2 Healthy, or Trickster's Glass, but it's incredibly strong if you manage to fully hit your board and have good items. Moving on to B tier, challengers continue to fall after Yasuo was nerfed and other comps were buffed, but this comp is still playable from high roll positions. You can't force it anymore, and you really need to hit both Kai'Sa and Yasuo 2-star on tempo, or you're going to bleed out very quickly. 8 Void still has one of the highest caps in the game, but getting there is the hard part, and you still need +1 Void to play it. This is one of the most volatile comps if you have a good opener and can streak early. You are in an incredibly powerful position, but if you ever fall behind, you're going to be in big trouble, especially if you never find Bel'Veth. Kale Reroll is a 1-cost reroll comp that is very much 1st or 8th. The Slayer nerfs hits this comp quite hard, so you really need to hit on time, or you're headed for a fast 8th, as you won't be able to add Slayers and reach Gwen 2-star fast enough. Tristana Reroll is much better after the comps with backline X's were all nerfed, like Zed and Yasuo. If you have a bunch of these units early and good items, you can often ride this into a free top 4, especially if you hit a good econ augment. Now let's get into my strategy for climbing on this patch. The 2 best options for legends on this patch are Ornn and Master Yi. Ornn's 2-1 augments are the most appealing. Items like Triforce, Eternal Winter, Deathfire Grasp, and Collector are incredibly good in the current meta, so make sure to look out for those. His 3-2 and 4-2 augments are good, safe options as well if your other options are not great. When playing Master Yi, take any strong combat or econ augments you find on 2-1, but if you don't find them, just take Pumping Up and play towards Aphelios or Zeri. If you end up playing an AP comp like Karma, Lux, or Taliyah, you should almost always take his 4-2 augment, Gotta Go Fast, as they really like the mana regen. Battle Ready is a safe 3-2 option, but it's nothing special. There are many better augments there. On this patch, you should first identify if you have really good spots for any other reroll comps, which are Taliyah, Tristana, Kale, Noxus, and Invokers. If not, you should immediately shift your focus towards trying to play Aphelios, Akshan, or Zeri. These 3 are the most consistent comps that you should default towards every game, and flex between depending on your items and who you hit on your roll down. For example, if you have Rageblade, avoid Akshan and stick to the 4 costs. And if you have Deathblade, flex between Aphelios and Akshan depending on whether you can get the attack speed items on Aphelios or not. If you have Piltover, you should almost always play towards Zeri. Make sure to hold Piltover units in the early game, as you often secure easy top 4s and top 2s if you manage to get it in at 2-1 or 2-2. The AP lines are much more high roll dependent on this patch. You really need a proper spot to play Invokers, as you still lose a ton of HP on stage 4 before you hit your 3-stars, and you really need specific items to play the comp like Spark, Anti-Heal, and Gunblade. Sorcerers and Challengers are comps you should still try to avoid without a +1, unless you are ahead enough where you can hit multiple 2-star carries and easily push for a fast 8. Now let's take a deeper look into each comp. All of these will be available in an Imgur album for patrons and YouTube members, and the links to join those are down in the description. First up is Freljord Aphelios. This is a 4-cost carry comp, so you have two options. You can either roll level 7 on either 3-5 or 4-1, or fast state on 4-2 or 4-5. Usually you want to roll level 7 though, and come up with some variation of this board. The comp is pretty flexible, so you should always hold on to units like Taric, Jarvan, Heimer, Senna, and Ryze. Don't be scared to play 2 or 3 Deadeye if units aren't upgraded and you need to fit in more frontline. Aphelios' most important item is Rageblade, as he really wants attack speed to ramp up into late fights. You can get away with RFC or augments like Pumping Up, but it's less than ideal. After that, you want 2 damage items like Deathblade, Guardbreaker, IE, Giant Slayer, and Runeance. Urgot is the comp's secondary carry, and his best items are Titans, Bloodthirster, Hodge, Edge of Night, and any other AD items. Also, don't be scared to itemize Akshan too, as he pumps out a ton of damage as well. You should usually put tank items on Sejuani, but they can also go on Sion or Shen. Next up is Gunner Zeri. This comp plays differently whether you have Piltover or not. If you do, try to Lost Streak until at least stage 3-5, where you want to roll down for a strong board to cash out your T-Hex. This is the standard board at level 8, but you can drop 4 Zon if you don't need it, and if you don't have Urgot items. And you can drop 4 Gunner if you don't have Senna. If you hit Heimer, you always play him on this board, and either go for double Meccano, plus Shrink if you don't have Shred, and triple Meccano if you do. In general, you don't want to sell the T-Hex unless he's below 40 stacks, or it's in the late game and you need to sell him to win the fights. If you don't have Piltover, you usually want to roll down on 3-5 or 4-1 for a similar board. Just drop to 2 or 3 Gunners if you don't have Senna, and play units like Jarvan, Lissandra, Sion, Shen, and Heimer instead. Zeri's best item is Last Whisper, as you always want Shred, and she applies it very well. Freljord or Shrink module are great substitutes though, if you can't fit them in. Her other best items are Rageblade, and AD items like Giant Slayer, IE, Hodge, Guardbreaker, and Runeance. The next comp is Akshan Reroll, which is a 3-cost reroll comp, so you should slow roll at level 7 for Akshan 3 and Lissandra 3-star. If you are contested though, consider going level 8 after upgrading your frontline and hitting Akshan 2-star. This board is pretty flexible with its frontline and Shurima units, so you can play K'Sante, Shen 2, Nasus 2, Azir, Jarvan, Aatrox, and Sion if you hit them as well. Akshan's whole power budget is in his ult, so Deathblade is his best item to make his ult stronger, but you can get away without it if you have long distance pals or social distancing. The Runeance interaction for his ult was nerfed, so it's no longer mandatory on him, though it still remains a good choice. Any other AD items will do otherwise, like IE, Guardbreaker, Hodge, Giant Slayer, or a second Deathblade. Itemize Sejuani as your main tank, and itemize Lissandra as a secondary carry with AP items, especially if you can hit her 3-star. Next we have Sorcerer Lux. This comp can be played a few ways. If you are ahead, you want to roll a little or not at all and push for a fast 8 to fit in this board. If you are behind and have to roll level 7, you either have to drop Demacia or 6 Sorcerers. Usually, it's best to just drop 2 Sorks for Shen. If you have +1 Sorcerer, always put the spite on Sona and roll at level 7 to stabilize. Usually use the Lux as your main carry, but if you are in a good position to hit Vel'Koz 3-star, you should definitely go for it and use him as the main carry instead. Do not play for Multicaster as it was nerfed and is much weaker than this board. If you manage to hit Ahri, you should try to itemize her if possible, as she is incredibly powerful and allows this comp to play for a top 2. Vel'Koz, Ahri, and Lux all use similar items as well. Usually you want a mana item, especially for Ahri and Vel'Koz, like Sojin or Blue Buff, and 2 damage items like JG, Guardbreaker, Giant Slayer, or Deathcap. Gunblade is also a good option to heal up your limited frontline. Taric is the best holder for tank items in this comp after the buffs, and his most important item is Spark. After that, any tank items will do, especially Warmogs, Stoneplate, Bramble, and Declaw. And if you can, get a Protector's Wow on Jarvan, as it buys a lot of time for your backline to wipe out the enemy boards. Next up is Noxus Reroll. This is a 3-cost reroll comp, so you want to slow roll at level 7 for Darius and Katarina 3-star. If you are ahead and have a bunch of money, try to go for Kled 3-star and Swain 3-star as well. Noxus stacks are very important. You want to make sure you level to 6 on 3-2 and stabilize your board to start winning. Always roll for 6 Noxus, but you can also roll for Cat 2 and Darius 2 if you have pairs or your board is bad. You want to play a Juggernaut like Warwick, Nasus, or Aatrox at level 7, and drop Cassio for Sion if you hit him. Play Jarvan, Senna, Heimer, or a Rogue at level 8, and if you have a Noxus Bat, put it on Echo and roll for Echo 3-star as well. Or you can put it on Azir and play Cassio and Nasus for Shurima. Darius' best items are healing items like Hodge or BT, plus 2 damage items like Titans, IE, Giant Slayer, and Last Whisper. Katarina wants Spark, AP items like JG, Deathcap, and Guardbreaker, and a healing item like Hodge or Gunblade. Invoker Karma is a newer 3-cost reroll comp to the meta. you should slow roll at level 7 to hit Karma 3-star. Soraka, Lissandra, and Taric are also great if you 3-star them, but they are not the priority. Play Cassio until you hit Rise, and add in Ahri or any Ionia unit at level 8. If you have +1 Invoker, just play Ionia at level 7 instead. If you are not in a position to hit 3 stars, consider pushing to level 8 to maintain tempo with the lobby to get a top 4. Another good option when playing this comp is to roll up 3-2 at level 6 for 4 Invokers plus any frontline, especially if you have multiple pairs. Karma's best items are JG, Guardbreaker, and Gunblade. Other options are Deathcap, Archangels, Hodge, and Giant Slayer, but they are not as good. Itemize Soraka as a secondary carry if you 3-star her, and itemize Shen with your tank items unless you hit Taric 3-star. The most important tank items for this comp are Spark for Magic Shred, and anti-heal like Morello or Sunfire, as the fights tend to last a while. If you hit Ahri, try to itemize her if possible, as she deals a ton of damage, even at 1-star with all of the mana from Invokers. Taliyah is a comp you can only play from very specific spots. Either you hit 2 healthy, Trickster's Glass, or Double Treble. This is a 2-cost reroll comp, so you want to slow roll at level 6 for Taliyah 3 and Set 3. Teemo 3 and Swain 3 are also good, but they are not required. Once you hit, push levels for Jarvan, Sion, Cassante, Juggernaut, or 4 Multicaster. If you are able to get Sion in, you should always play it, as he provides a massive knock-up that makes your Taliyah deal a ton of damage. Something very important that you should do if you play this comp without Double Trouble is to try to get a Taliyah 3 and a Taliyah 2 on your board if possible. To do this, do not buy the last Taliyah to make Taliyah 3 until the round starts, then roll for more Taliyahs during combat. Spark is incredibly important for this comp to get Magic Shred. After that, build tank items on Set and Taliyah items. She wants damage items like JG, Deathcap, Guardbreaker, and Giant Slayer. Gunblade is also great to heal up your frontline. Mana items like Blue Buff and Sojourn are also fine. Chalices are great in this comp to give extra AP to your Taliyahs. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you want cheat sheets for any of my comp guides, they're available for you to members and patrons, and the links to join those are down in the description. And if you want to get better at TFT, join the Discord. We got over 9,000 other players there who are hungry to climb. And if you want to get coached by me, the information is over on the Discord server as well. So take care and see you in the next video.